So if you've scrolled through TikTok or Instagram lately, you've probably noticed it, right? Tarot readings, astrology memes, they're everywhere. Today, we're going to dig into why a generation that grew up with science and smartphones is turning to these really ancient, mystical practices to figure out the modern world.
You know, the sources we've been looking at for this explainer put it perfectly. This whole trend, it isn't really a rejection of belief. It's more like the search for it has just moved. It's slipping out of the big old sanctuaries and finding us right where we are. You know, moving from the cathedral to the coffee table, from the pulpit to our social media feeds. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. I mean, think about it. We're talking about a generation that's come of age with nonstop uncertainty, economic instability, climate anxiety, a global pandemic. A lot of the traditional structures just don't feel reliable anymore, and so they're creatively and very publicly finding new ways to fill that void.
And what we're seeing here is a huge shift. It's a clear move away from these rigid, top-down systems with all their rules. Instead, you've got these fluid, super personal, networked practices taking over. It actually mirrors what's happening everywhere else, right? Just like media and money are becoming decentralized, spirituality is too. It's all about putting personal authority over institutional authority.
All right, let's dive into the first big piece of this puzzle, the absolutely massive comeback of astrology.
So, why the stars, and why right now? Well, the experts we're drawing from say it boils down to a few key things. Astrology gives people a language to talk about themselves, without all the dogma. It offers this little bit of cosmic order when everything else feels chaotic. And, maybe most importantly, it builds community, all through super accessible apps and social media.
And that's the real kicker here. This isn't just about reading your daily horoscope anymore. For Gen Z, astrology is this powerful tool for building identity and finding your people. You know, sharing memes about Mercury being in retrograde, or bonding because you're both a Scorpio rising. That creates a real sense of belonging, and it's perfectly built for the digital age.
Now, this is a really important distinction. According to scholars like Demetra George, the goal isn't really to prove that astrology can predict the future. Its power isn't about being factually true in a scientific sense. Instead, it's all about the meaningful conversation it lets you have with yourself, using these ancient archetypes and symbols as a guide.
Okay, so let's move on to another ancient tool that's getting a serious 21st century makeover, the tarot deck. And just like with astrology, the whole modern approach to tarot is asking us to see it differently. So forget the spooky fortune teller with a crystal ball, think of it more like a psychological tool, or even a creative one. It's basically a deck of 78 symbolic pictures designed to get you thinking.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The magic isn't in the piece of cardboard. The power is in its ability to unlock something that you already know or feel deep down, but just haven't been able to put into words yet. The card is just the key that starts the engine.
So at the end of the day, tarot is seen as this really democratic and personal practice. It doesn't hand you a script telling you what's going to happen. It just holds up a mirror to what's happening right now inside you and lets you tap into your own wisdom.
Now, beyond specific tools like astrology and tarot, there's something else bubbling up: the creation of these personal, everyday rituals.
And we're not talking about some big, complicated ceremony here. It's all about injecting a little bit of meaning into daily life. It's as simple as taking a normal routine, like making your morning coffee, and layering it with intention. Maybe a moment of gratitude, or just some quiet focus. And boom, that simple act becomes a personal, grounding ceremony.
So why is this so important right now? Well, experts think this turn towards physical, sensory things, like lighting a candle, holding a crystal, feeling the warmth of a mug. It's a direct pushback against our increasingly online lives. It's a way to get back into our bodies and ground ourselves in the real physical world.
Okay, so what does this all add up to? When you take the astrology, the tarot, the personal rituals, and you put them all together, what does it actually mean for where we're headed as a society?
Well, what we might be witnessing, according to our sources, is pretty profound. It's like we're watching new myths being made in real time. Because when these individual practices get adopted by millions of people, shared online and off, they start to weave together into new, collective stories about who we are and how the world works.
And you can already see some of these new myths starting to form. There's the self as universe, this idea that the sacred isn't out there somewhere, it's inside you. There's the algorithm as oracle, where data and AI start to feel like a new kind of destiny. Survival as sacred, where these rituals become tools for resilience. And community and difference, a really powerful one about finding belonging by celebrating our differences, not erasing them.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. While these practices look totally different from traditional religion, they're personal, they're decentralized, their social function can be almost identical. They create a shared language, shared values, and a really powerful sense of community for a new generation.
So, the big question this all leaves us with is this. Are we just looking at a bunch of fleeting trends, things that will fade away in a few years? Or are we actually in the early days of watching a new kind of spiritual language being born, one designed for a really complex and uncertain future? I guess what happens next is a story that's still being written.